Have you ever wondered what it feels like to witness the exact moment when history changes course? When the fate of millions hangs in the balance of a single signature? On May 7, 1945, in a small schoolhouse in Reims, France, a handful of men gathered in the early morning darkness to end the most devastating conflict Europe had ever known. Stay with me until the end to discover how this pivotal moment continues to shape our world today, and why two different dates mark the end of World War II in Europe. In the pre-dawn hours of May 7, 1945, a small classroom in Reims, France, became the stage for one of history's most consequential ceremonies. General Alfred Jodl, representing the German High Command, arrived at the Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force to sign the unconditional surrender of all German forces, both in the East and West. The desperate Third Reich was crumbling, with Berlin already fallen to Soviet forces, and Hitler dead by suicide just days earlier. But this surrender didn't come easily. Initially, Jodl hoped to surrender only to the Western Allies, keeping German forces fighting against the Soviets in the East. General Eisenhower, however, demanded complete and unconditional surrender on all fronts. Eisenhower made it absolutely clear: there would be no separate peace. The surrender must be total to all allies on every front. He even threatened to seal off Western lines, preventing German troops from surrendering to American and British forces, instead of to the advancing Soviets. Faced with this ultimatum, Jodl radioed Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, Hitler's successor, as head of state. The message was clear: sign or face annihilation. Donitz gave the order to surrender. At 2:41 in the morning, General Jodl signed the act of military surrender, requiring all German forces to cease operations effective May 8th at 11:01 p.m. Central European Time. Representatives from all four Allied powers witnessed this historic moment. Lieutenant General Walter Bedell Smith signed for the Supreme Allied Command, General Ivan Susloparov signed for the Soviet Union, and French Major General François Chavez signed as the official witness. After the signing, Jodl rose and with a broken voice pleaded for generosity for the German people, the German armed forces, who he said have achieved and suffered perhaps more than any other people in the world. When the surrender was complete, Eisenhower sent a remarkably understated message to Washington. The mission of this Allied force was fulfilled at 0241 local time, May 7, 1945. 6 years of brutal war in Europe had officially ended. But wait, if you studied this period, you might be wondering, why do some countries celebrate Victory in Europe Day on May 8th, while Russia observes it on May 9th? When Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin learned of the Reims surrender, he objected. He argued that since the Soviet Union had sacrificed the most lives during the war, its highest military commander should accept Germany's surrender, and it should happen in Berlin, the capital of the fallen Reich. So on May 8th, Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, the supreme commander of all German forces, traveled to Berlin to sign another surrender document in front of Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov and Allied representatives. Due to time zone differences and delays in the ceremony, this second signing happened after midnight Moscow time on May 9th. That's why to this day, Russia and many former Soviet states celebrate Victory Day on May 9th, while Western nations mark the occasion on May 8th. For the soldiers who had fought across Europe and the civilians who had endured years of hardship, the specific date mattered less than the reality. The guns had finally fallen silent. The surrender at Reims didn't just end a war, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in human history. Within months, World War II would end completely with Japan's surrender. Europe would begin the long process of rebuilding, and a new geopolitical order would emerge that shaped the remainder of the 20th century and continues to influence our world today. When we reflect on that moment in a small French schoolhouse, we're reminded of how fragile peace can be and how precious. The signatures on that document represented more than the end of hostilities. They represented the hope for a better future. What historical moment do you think has had the greatest impact on our modern world? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this journey into one of history's defining moments valuable, don't miss tomorrow's video where we'll explore another watershed event that shaped our collective story. These pivotal moments help us understand not just where we came from, but who we are today. Hit that like button if you discovered something new, and subscribe to History Sparks for more illuminating stories from our shared past. Until next time, I'm honored to be your guide through the corridors of history.